So tonight's topic is going to be our skin. So Alan, what kind of fun facts can you tell about our skin?
Well, I think one of the most interesting things about skin that we're not even aware of is the fact that our skin endures 15 pounds per square inch of atmospheric pressure. And if that atmospheric pressure wasn't there, we would just blow apart. We would be just like a balloon that the air was let out of. Like there would be no way to hold us together. So I don't think we walk around thinking, oh gosh, I'm feeling this pressure, except sometimes when the pressure changes, people will get sensitive to pressure changes and they're not really sure why, but it's actually because as the atmospheric or barometric pressure, whichever term you want to use, as it changes, that pressure on our skin changes. So there is a bit of an in and out motion, and our skin is very sensitive to those types of changes and is actually geared towards telling us that there's changes. And if they're really severe, so if you live in an area like Calgary, Alberta, where you have Chinooks and the atmospheric pressure is up and down, up and up, up and down, people will often respond to that by getting migraines. It's just information overload from this change in the atmospheric pressure, and it's their skin that's sensing that. So I think that's a real fun fact about your skin that we never think about. If we didn't have that atmospheric pressure, so you think there's 15 pounds of pressure on the skin, in order for us to maintain our shape, there obviously has to be pressure coming off of us as well. Otherwise, we would be squished. We would not. And for lots of people, they'd like to be squished smaller than they are, but not in that way. We would be pancake squished if we weren't able to generate the opposite amount of pressure to our skin.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Is that now, I hear of people having altitude sickness when they get higher and higher. Is that because of the skin, or is that because of something else?
Well, it's two things. One is, of course, the amount of oxygen available is quite a bit less the higher you get. So altitude sickness that people suffer, say, on Mount Everest or when they're climbing mountains, is because they're just not getting enough oxygen. And so they'll get very sick from that. It does have a little bit to do with atmospheric pressure as well. And that has to be taken into account. So if somebody's going to summit Everest, they have to take that into account in their oxygen tanks, their oxygen pressure systems. As they go up, there's less ability for their system to deliver oxygen to them. So they actually have to turn up the pressure as they climb to get the oxygen even from their tanks. So very interesting. Our son-in-law actually was attempted to climb Everest. And he did that before he married our daughter. That was one of their agreements. He had all these dreams, and one of them was to climb Everest. And so she said, well, before we get married, you go ahead and do that. So he went over and he got up to second base camp, and then they had a huge storm, and everybody was evacuated from the mountain. And he was already feeling quite sick even at that level. Keep in mind at the second base camp, you're 18,000 feet. So that's more than anything we have here for us to be on. So he was already sick from the lack of oxygen. But anyway.
So how many layers of skin do we have?
We have 3 layers of skin. So we have the epidermis, the outer layer, the dermis, which is a middle layer. And then we have the hypodermis, which is the inside. So what's really important about layers of the skin is the actual skin you see on a person is dead. So that very surface of our skin is actually ready to be sloughed off. And about 80% of the dust in your house is actually from us releasing skin. And our skin replaces about every few days, every 21 days, we have completely new skin. So we actually are throwing off a lot of skin particles, and it comes in the form of dust. So when you're dusting your house and you're blaming the weather or you're blaming where you live because it's dirty and dusty, just remember that you personally have contributed a lot to what we call house dust. And that's why mites can live in house dust is because of the skin tissue that's in house dust. The other thing that I think is important about understanding the layers of the skin, the middle layer of skin on women has quite a bit more fat. So the average, the thickness of skin, which I think is a question you're going to ask me, the thickness of skin can be 3 to 4 millimeters. The difference, males have thinner skin. Women have an extra layer of insulation in their skin. Now, there's lots of conjecture about why that is. They're softer, that's more nurturing, etc. They tend to have more thermal adjustments than men do. They get, because of their internal mechanism, they get really hot. So there's lots of conjecture about why that is, but they actually tend to have more fat in their skin. Wrinkles do not occur on the surface of your skin. So wrinkles, when you see deep wrinkles like I have on my cheeks and other areas or forehead, and we're putting something on the surface to treat those wrinkles are actually from the third layer in on the skin where the collagen has broken down. So collagen breakdown is actually what weakens the skin enough so that it crinkles. And some of that, of course, is just the way our anatomy is. We'll have wrinkles that we aren't going to get rid of. But as we age and we get more wrinkles in our skin, that's because we need collagen protein. We need to replace that collagen, which will actually help our skin be stronger.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So what other name is, so skin, what other name is given to it? Is it?
So in the medical system, we skin is the largest organ of our body. I think everybody knows that. If we took your skin and we laid it out, it would cover a pretty big, not quite a football field, but if we took it, the 3 layers and just spread it all out, there's a lot of surface area there. And one of the things we don't think about is the fact that our intestinal tract, so our skin comes down, there's our mouth, and then we kind of think of our intestinal tract as being separate, but it's very similar to the skin. And everything that's inside your intestinal tract is actually outside of your body. It's still being held out of your body by your intestinal tract. If whatever's in your intestinal tract gets into your body, then we have a thing called sepsis. We're very sick. It's a medical emergency. So the skin is actually called an interaugmentary system. So in medical language, we don't just think of the skin as an organ in and of itself, because we think about just little things that we know about our skin. So we often hear people say, well, that raised the hair on the back of my neck.
Yep.
And that's a true thing. So when we feel that little flush on the back of our neck, we're actually getting ready. Our body's getting ready. Our skin is responding to help us bring in more oxygen and help us, because that little raising on the back of our neck is indicating we're getting ready for fight or flight. We're getting ready. There's something we need to either run from, escape from. And if it's just a person in front of us that's raising the skin on the back of our neck, we're kind of intuitively feeling something from that person that's actually making us a little bit afraid. So we hear that. Some other interesting things about the hair. Every human is covered in hair. Now, whether you can see it or not is another thing. But if you look under a microscope, every human is literally covered. Almost every inch of your skin is covered in hair. Part of the reason for that is insulation. It helps to keep heat in. It helps to keep cold out. People with lighter skin like myself will notice that in the summertime, the hair on your skin will actually turn darker and grow thicker and longer. So if I move to Hawaii or someplace like that where I'm going to be constantly exposed to the sun, one of the things I would notice over time is that I would get a lot more hair on my arms and legs, and where it grows naturally. Maybe it would even grow in other places. And that's just our skin sensing that we're being exposed to something that's potentially harmful, and it's a way of protecting us. It's kind of giving us a bit of shade, if you will, on our body. So the hairs on our skin are actually little sensor mechanisms in and of themselves. Lots of people want to remove all the hair from their skin. They want it all taken off. And without knowing it, they're actually removing a lot of ability to absorb friction, and they're actually reducing their ability to sense things. So sense things like what? Sense things like danger, sense things like wind, sensing things like that changes in temperature. So the hair on our skin is very important, and every human is covered in hair. It's one of the things that even though we look at somebody and we think, oh, that person doesn't have a hair on their head, or we'll say that about them, or yeah, like, but literally the rest of our body, when we look at it, we are covered with hair, and that's on purpose. So it's this interaugmentary system is because the skin sends signals. Not only is it there to protect us and as a barrier to things that could hurt us or even kill us, like viruses and bacteria, toxins, etc. So that little extra layer of skin in ladies' skin, well, that can absorb a lot of toxin, where men don't have that. So men working in industrial areas, men, in the past have been the farm person and working in industry. They have a lot more events of toxicity than women, because what women can be exposed, and the skin, the fat in their skin will absorb that and hopefully either hold it from damaging or causing damage, or will actually excrete it. And one of the other things about our skin is it's used by the body to excrete a lot of waste material. And so people, we call it body odor sometimes. We try to cover that up, but really there's a lot of things that come out of our body through the skin. If anybody's ever been on tetracycline or doxycycline when they were younger, if they had acne, you can taste it on your skin. A lot of other drugs that you take, you can actually taste on your skin. You can taste it on your fingers, because it comes and it gets into the fat in your skin, and then it sits there, and then our skin will try to it'll slough it off over time, as we're exfoliating our skin. So our skin has a lot of purposes that we don't even think about, and helps a lot of other organs respond to changes. It's actually one of the first sensing mechanisms that is going to help us to understand we need to make a change. So a lot of times, we'll be, let's say we're out hunting or doing something, we're by ourselves, we're in the dark, we'll feel it on our skin first. Right? We'll feel it on our skin first, and that will send a sense into our body where we'll become aware, I need to become more aware of my surroundings. But literally that's from your skin, and it's very interesting. So one of the other things is we send out an electromagnetic signal from our body. It goes out 12 feet from us. So from our solar plexus, from our heart being a huge electrical transmitter, it sends out a signal. So we have a frequency that goes away from us, and it goes up to 12 feet away. And if you've ever been standing in a lineup in a bank or grocery store or whatever, just standing in a lineup, and all of a sudden you become aware of somebody, maybe 2 or 3 people in front of you, and you'll just think to yourself, well, that person's either happy or they're angry or they're getting upset at the situation. And how did you first sense that? Well, that frequency from that person came and touched your skin, and that skin sent a message for you to become more aware of your surroundings, because danger could be lurking. So our skin is a really, really important organ, and it needs a lot of attention. And one of the things I'm going to say to men, if the men are listening in on this, men need to take care of their skin even more than women, because we don't have that fat. So as we get older, we tend to get more wrinkles, our skin gets tougher, and there's a lot of things. We lose a lot of senses as our skin deteriorates.
So what hormone do we get from skin? Or
Well, it's incorrectly called a vitamin. So people know if you go out in the sun, you're going to get vitamin D. Now, it was called vitamin D. That was a play on words, actually, but vitamin D is actually a hormone, which has many roles in the prevention of disease, in the reduction of inflammation. And we all understand that when you go out in the skin, so vitamin D is in your skin and it's inactive. And one of the reasons going out in the sun is really good for us is the sun's rays will actually activate vitamin D. So it takes it from its quiescent or inactive state and makes it active vitamin D. And that's why going out in the sun is really good for us. And for people that have been told, you need to protect yourself from the sun, put on sunscreen, cover yourself in clothes, don't ever get in the sun. They're really afraid of skin cancer. That's actually not true. Now, that doesn't mean we should overexpose ourselves to sun. Like you and I, for instance, we're very fair skinned. We are going to sunburn quite quickly. So I do have sun protective clothing, but I do make sure that I expose my whole body to the sun whenever I can. In the summer here, I go to the ocean, I swim in the ocean. I just wear my swimming trunks and I make sure I'm in the sun because the sun is very good for us. It's very good for stimulating vitamin D, but it also has many other effects. Just the sunshine itself has many other effects besides vitamin D. And then people are told you need to wear sunglasses all the time. Well, sunglasses, when you wear sunglasses all the time and you don't expose your eye to any, not looking directly at the sun, but you're just not out in the sun, that actually can mess up your sleep pattern. So somebody who wears sunglasses constantly because they're just afraid of the sunlight or they find it really bright or whatever, it's actually good if you can get out in the morning or even in the evening when the sun's rays aren't so strong and expose your eyes just without sunglasses. Early morning is the best. If you're out for 10 or 15 minutes, it actually will help reset your circadian rhythm. In other words, your pattern of wakefulness and sleep, which we all, a lot of people during the summer, we all know that we feel more energetic and we like to be outside, and well, that's because of the sun. And then in the winter, we don't get the sun and we feel more lethargic. Also, the sun is what tells us to either it's time to hibernate. And we all go through hibernation. We all live in like right now, we're getting about 7.5 to 8 hours of sunshine. We're going to get a little bit less up until December 21st or around that time. And then it starts to swing back again. But that decline in sunshine, and actually the University of Alberta is where this was discovered. The increase in the decline in sunshine has everything to do with when trees put their leaves out, when they let their leaves fall off. So if we have a cloudier, colder fall, the leaves tend to fall off quicker. If we have longer periods of sunshine in the fall, you'll notice the leaves will stay out longer because the plant isn't getting the message to hibernate. And it's the same with us. If you're living in Alberta right now, where it's been sunny for the last, I think it's the first month on record, if it holds here for the next 3 or 4 days, since 1960, that there has been no snow in the month of November in Alberta. So you're getting a lot of sunshine. Well, that sunshine that you're getting is actually telling your body not to hibernate. And what does that mean for us? Well, it can mean several things. One is when we get the hibernation signal, we tend to eat a little bit more. And people will gain weight over the winter sometimes, but it's part of the hibernation. You're eating. Whereas when you're out in the sun, it turns off that hibernation signal. So you tend to manage your weight better if you're out in the sunshine. So there's lots of benefits. And all of that is because of your skin and this hormone vitamin D, which is helping control your weight, helping control this hibernation, the wakefulness, all of these things that are going on in our life. So really, really important to take care of our skin.
So why does our skin get thinner as we age?
Lack of collagen production. So when we're I was just with somebody, they just had a little, they have a little infant daughter. She's beautiful, as all infants are. They're just so precious and perfect in their tininess. And they're going to produce a lot of collagen. So as they grow, their body's producing collagen. When we hit somewhere, it varies, but somewhere between the age of 15 and 20 for females, somewhere between the age of around 15 to 22 for males, we've reached our maximum height that we're going to be. We've reached our maximum skeletal structure, and our body starts to reduce collagen production. And if we're not a meat eater, if we're vegan, that we're not getting the amino acids that we need to make collagen, and we need to, I shouldn't say need, it's beneficial to supplement with collagen protein as we get older, collagen peptides, because those collagen peptides, our body will take and make one of the 28 kinds of collagen that we need in our body. So collagen is an essential part of our skin. Collagen is what gives us its strength and firmness and keeps the wrinkles away. Collagen is also 98% of the vitreous fluid in our eye is actually collagen. So if we're having eye problems as we get older, actually taking a collagen supplement can help with eye problems, can help delay eye problems, maybe even reverse some eye problems. We need to, that collagen supplementation will do a lot for us as we get older. And how much do you need to take of collagen? Well, the studies show us that even if somebody was to take 2.5 grams of collagen peptides a day, it would have a visible effect on their skin. If they take more than that, it helps repair things, certainly our skin, our hair, our intestinal tract, our cardiovascular system, which are all made out of collagen. 60,000 miles of cardiovascular system, all made out of collagen. Our skin, largest organ of the body, mostly made up of collagen. So our body mass is about 35 to 38% collagen, and we quit producing it at age 20. Somewhere around that age, our early 20s, we quit producing it, except for repair purposes. So as we get older, we tend not to eat as much protein. We find it difficult to eat. And we tend not to eat things that would really help us have the amino acids. So collagen supplementation can be very beneficial to people as they age.
So what major health condition can be diagnosed just from the skin?
Well, in my medical practice, you really learn to value the skin, because the skin will tell us a lot of things. The very first thing that I learned about skin was it tells us without sort of question the health of your liver. Now, when we have little babies, often they'll have jaundice. They'll be yellow because their liver's producing too much bile. They don't need it, and it turns into bilirubin, and the bilirubin comes out through their skin. So often kids they'll be told, can you put your child in the sunshine, in the window? They used to put kids in the window, but can you put them under light? Can you put them in the sunshine? And it helps to get rid of the vitamin D, will help break down the bilirubin, and the sunshine will help break down this excess in bile acid. If you look at somebody and you see pockets of yellow under their eyes, big pockets of yellow under their eyes, right away we know that their liver is not functioning at the level it should be. If they have a yellow tinge to their skin, we know their liver is actually really crying out for help. One of the things we'll notice in older people, and we call them liver spots on their hands, and other appendages will say, oh, look at that person's getting liver spots on their face or on their hands. And those are just big brown spots that kind of look like a mole or a great big freckle. The more of them we have, and the more we see in an older person, the more we should look at supporting their liver health, because that's literally telling us our liver is not functioning properly. It's producing too much of some kinds of bile acids, not enough of others. And often when people have these, like you can look at my hands, I don't have a liver spot on my hands. Even though I'm in my 70s, I don't have any because I've taken care of my liver over time. But that's one thing. So we can tell just by looking at somebody the health of their liver. We don't have to do enzyme tests. The enzyme tests would come after. I mean, if we looked at somebody and we saw these yellow pockets under their eyes, fatty deposits under their eyes, or a yellowness to their skin, we would definitely do liver enzymes to see what their liver function is at. And but even if your enzymes aren't elevated a lot, somebody that has bilirubin or yellowness in their skin, I would go ahead and treat their liver anyway. And silifos, something that's really great for our liver, which is milk thistle and phosphatidylcholine together. It's called silifos. You'll see it as an ingredient. The other thing that we can tell, that I learned to tell from people's skin, was cancer. So I learned as a practitioner, when people would come in, we could learn to detect various types of cancer right away from the pallor of their skin. So whether that's lung cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, some internal cancers, they will show up on the skin, in the pallor of the skin. And often we'll look at people who are suffering from cancer and we'll say, "Ooh, that person looks really gray." And they are. And the reason for that, so we've talked about glutathione in the past, and we hold a good percentage of our glutathione in our skin, because our skin, being a barrier against toxins, bacteria, and things that we can be exposed to, we need glutathione in our skin to actually detoxify our skin and get rid of that. Well, what's going on in cancer is the cancer is stealing all the glutathione it can from every cell it can. So as it steals, it tends to take the color out of people's skin, whether they're pink, whether they're whatever color they are naturally, it will tend to take the color and dull their skin. And it's just because it's stealing the glutathione, it's stealing the life out of their skin. So cancer and liver disease are two diseases that are very detectable via the skin. And then we would have to look further to say, okay, what type of cancer is that? Where is it? How are we going to treat it? We'd also have to, look at somebody's enzymes and say, oh, your liver is doing this, doing a enzyme function test, and see exactly. Because the challenge with our liver, for instance, is it can be down to in the single digits as a percentage of efficiency, and it's still working, but it's not working well. And I would say on average, particularly for those of us who live north of the equator, I think it's really interesting that the 24.3 level of latitude is called the Tropic of Cancer, because when you look at how prevalent cancer is above that, and we can say maybe that's due to lack of vitamin D, that could be a contributing factor, lack of sunshine, a lot of contributing factors, lifestyle factors that go along with living north, the further north you live. But yeah, those are two things that your skin is going to show an effect if you have cancer, if you have liver disease, and they're often detectable by your skin first.
So what products does Modexus have that could help us with our skin?
Well, first of all, Lanacer longevity indirectly helps us with our skin by increasing our glutathione levels, and also it has silifos in it for our liver. So that's a really good product. Somebody that has either cancer or a liver condition, I would be giving them 2 capsules in the morning, 2 capsules in the evening. That's something that I would definitely recommend for them because of the silifos. Those are really important. And our new Probio Balance, because Probio Balance really has a positive effect on the production of bile acids, and the reduction of fat that hangs around our intestinal tract. So what's the importance of that? Well, most industrial chemicals, most drugs, one of the things we have to do, and if anybody's ever been on a blood thinner, they know this, we have to titrate. In other words, we have to get the level of blood accommodated to their fat level in their body, because 97% of that drug we give them is actually absorbed by the fat in their body. It's inactive as far as activity in reducing blood clots. So that's why we have to constantly check their INR, is because as their fat levels change, either more of the drug is disappearing into the fat, or if they're losing weight, then more of the drug is available in the bloodstream. So very critical, if you're somebody that is on a blood thinner and you decide to lose weight, that you consult with your medical team about doing that. But just in a general sense, so every night when we go to sleep, we go into what's called ketosis. And that's essentially where our body switches from using glycogen. So it's kind of, it's energy sources in the body. We think sugar is an energy source. Actually, sugar isn't. Sugar has to be changed into glycogen, and we use glycogen. So we don't, some sugar can be used by our brain. So there's if somebody's diabetic and we give them glucose because it'll get into the bloodstream. Some of that can go to the brain right away. Some of it can be used for energy right away. But sugar in food, like starches and so on, that's in food, and it's digested, it goes to our liver and it's turned into glycogen. We carry about 2.5 to 3 pounds of glycogen in our liver and in our muscle tissue. When we go exercise, we're burning that glycogen. We're not burning the sugar that we just ate. We're burning the glycogen. We have to kind of change the body's mind and stop it using that glycogen and get it to the point of excess where it's like, okay, well, I need to shift into fat, the utilization of fat. And what we do with fat is we break down fat into glycogen, first into glycerin, glycerols, then or sugar alcohols, and then we break it down and we can use the glycogen, we burn the glycogen. So when you're exercising excessively, you're actually not using the food that you ate that moment. You're using food from before, and then the food that you ate then will help replace some of that. My whole point to that is your fat in your body, everything, industrial chemicals, drugs, a lot of the things that we are exposed to, it is absorbed by the fat in our body. And so at night, when we go to bed, we want to access our fat stores. Our liver goes to work. It's going to detox us. But generally speaking, because our brain goes quiet when we're sleeping, we don't need glycogen. And our brain is about 40% more efficient at using ketones than it is at using glycogen. So one of the reasons sleep is really important is to help our body use up this fat that's released every night. So every night we're going to release some fat stores. They're going to be released into ketones in our body. This is a natural process. I know sometimes people will hear about a ketogenic diet and they'll try to get their body in ketosis throughout the whole day. It's very, very difficult to do that, but it'll naturally go into ketosis at night. And so every night our body goes into this ketosis. Well, if that fat that we're using is laden with a toxin of some kind, we can wake up in the morning, feel really groggy. We can feel really upset about something and not even know why. Like, for instance, this is more common in females than guys, but when they used retinol to treat acne years ago, they had these retinol creams they would put on, very strong vitamin A creams, which were essentially meant to kind of cause your skin to grow faster than it should to try to pull the acne out from below the skin. Well, that drug is it's about 99% absorbed by the fat in your body, and it can take years, literally years, for that drug to come out of your body. And over time, people that were on Accutane or whatever when they're used, they'll have runny eyes, they'll have just things that they don't understand what's going on, and it can be just the fact that at night their body is releasing some of these toxins and chemicals that have been in our body. Another place where we notice that is with antibiotics. And many of the common drugs that we use, they are absorbed by the fat in our body. So when we're using that fat, we release some of those, and they can have consequences. Usually a doctor or medical professional takes out all that's taken into account when the doses of medicine are given. So it's not something you have to be sort of getting your sketch pad out and worrying about.
So are there any foods that are really good that we can take to improve our collagen for our skin?
Well, certainly we can take hydrolyzed, and it's really important. Here's what I'd like to make the point about when we use collagen. So collagen, most people, a lot of people on this Zoom, maybe grew up where they in an agricultural setting, or where their family took the turkey after Thanksgiving or after Christmas, and they boiled that, and then they would get a gelatin off of that, and then they would use the bone broth. So bone broth was a very popular thing years ago. It's kind of grown into popularity again, and that that bone broth is a type of gelatin or collagen. Now, when we take that, we can take that and break it down further into its component amino acids and make it into what's called peptides. And that's much easier for us to use and absorb. Nothing wrong with bone broth. If somebody wants to drink bone broth, it doesn't taste really good, but you can use bone broth. But we can use hydrolyzed, and if we can find enzyme hydrolyzed collagen peptides. So the difference is just hydrolyzed collagen peptide is all the component parts of an animal that they don't use: hooves, horns, skull, skeleton, whatever. They boil that and they get that collagen off. They get that floaty off the top. I call it scum, but it's actually the collagen that's floated to the top. They'll boil it in acid over time to do that. It'll destroy some of the amino acids. But if it's enzyme hydrolyzed, what that means is it's taken from the hides of, say, cattle, or pig collagen is actually identical to human, but we don't get pig collagen because it's extensively used in the agricultural industry. All of the pig collagen literally goes to the agricultural food industry, so we don't get that. So we can get beef collagen, chicken, and marine collagen. The difference is the beef collagen is very much similar to human collagen. With it just lacks tryptophan, so adding tryptophan to that would be good. If it's enzyme hydrolyzed, it means it's come from the skin. So it's actually taken from the skin instead of from the bones. And that is much more rich, that collagen. So enzymatically hydrolyzed collagen is like the best supplement we can take for our skin. And we can put in some green tea extract, and things like Lonicera berry that's in the Lonicera longevity, or any of the Medexus brands that have the purple label, the Lonicera, any of that. There's a recent article I read about coffee and how good the polyphenols in coffee are for your skin. So I guess it makes people more than happy when they have their coffee in the morning. Tea is another place for polyphenols. So polyphenols of all kind will help. Things that are high in beta carotene, which is a form of vitamin A, so carrots and some of those things, they used to be really good sources. And when people would grow them in their garden and the carrots would come out of their garden, I read some research recently, because we have genetically modified all of our food. If you're eating food today, it's genetically modified. Bananas used to have just full. If you pulled a banana apart, it was just full of seeds. You couldn't eat it. It was just junk. And they've actually genetically modified it to make the mushy part of the banana. And they've genetically modified a lot of things so we can grow them as domestic vegetables. And in doing that, it literally has reduced the amount of nutrition that's available. So supplementation is in my mind, for things like vitamin D, vitamin A, sometimes supplementation is more accurate and more just more accurate than actually trying to use food, because we just really don't know what we're getting from food. Even people, and this is something that I have to discuss with vegans all the time. They say, well, I'm getting everything I need. Yes, you can get everything you need, but you need pounds of food a day, not somebody's eating a little bit. And I know there's people that feel really good on a vegan diet, and that's great. There's some genetics to that. So there is about 15% of the population that are going to do really, really well on vegan diets because their genetics don't handle animal protein very good. For the rest of the people, though, it's just better when you're looking at some of these deficiencies and they're showing up, we can use supplements and we can be more accurate and more assured that that's going to do the job. And we do use things where we extract the supplements from vegetables, or we can get them from food sources, but we can concentrate them and then give them to people and get them accurate doses of that. There's an article that's floating around right now on vitamin D, and it's pertinent because we're talking about the skin. Of course, vitamin D activated by our skin. But there's a doctor, Dr. Lundgren, who's written a book, and he's become very famous and very controversial because he's giving people 60,000 international units of vitamin D a day for cancer treatment, and just these very unheard of doses of vitamin D seemingly with no side effects. And just positive effects. So I'm sure we're going to see more about that in the future.
So why do some people have dry skin or an oily skin, or what's a cause of dry skin, for example?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. So I happen to be one of those people. So some of that has to do with hydration. So we need to really keep ourselves hydrated. And we think of water as being our only source of hydration, where actually something like eating fruit would be a better source of hydration for somebody with really dry skin. So the water that's in your skin is special water. It's viscous water made by your liver. So when we drink water, we take water in, it goes into our body. That's not the water we're using in our body. We actually take that and we make that into something else in our body. We call it viscous water. So like you look at water and it's very fluid. Well, our blood is that fluid. So there's definitely lots of water in our blood, but the rest of the fluids in our body are very viscous. They're thick. And so we make special viscous water to make our other fluids in our body, like our mucus, like just any other fluids. So staying hydrated is a combination of elements to that. So yes, water is important. So is your electrolytes, like magnesium, many minerals. Salt is really important. I know lots of people have, you've got heart disease, we got to cut your salt back. And now there's new evidence emerging that no, that actually can dry out your skin, can cause you to not hydrate properly. So we need to be really careful about that. So keeping hydrated with electrolytes, keeping hydrated with some, and fruit juice is way different than juice from fruit. Okay, I'll say that again. So fruit juice, which is processed and has become very acidic, is considerably different than fruit from eating, than juice from eating a fruit, which hasn't been processed. Those are two different things, and you're going to get a lot more hydration from eating fruit than you are from drinking fruit juice. Collagen is really important. Having the structure to actually hold moisture in our skin. So lots of times when we see people with dry skin and they have psoriasis and eczema, then we're looking at that skin and saying, okay, so we all have a layer of bacteria on our skin as well. It's called skin bacteria. If we test it, it shows up as skin bacteria. It's actually one of the things they eliminate when they're looking for different kinds of infections. We have to eliminate skin bacteria from that and then sort out if it's a different bug. But skin bacteria is very important to us because it helps in protecting us as well in a different functional way. Also, the bacteria in our body holds about 90% of our DNA information, so that bacteria is very important. So hydration is really important, and collagen those are both really important. And if you can get into the light, if you can get into the sunlight, believe it or not, that will help your dry skin.
Okay. Another is Dr. Barbara O'Neill says if you put a little bit of Celtic salt into your mouth or and under your tongue and let it dissolve before you have a glass of water, that helps with your hydration at your cellular level. Would that be true?
There's lots of evidence now that using salt in a like Celtic salt or Himalayan salt, some of these more, I'm going to say, sea salt. We get most of our salt from salt mines in Saskatchewan. And, so it's basically just sodium chloride they're pulling out of the ground and taking the dirt out of it and making table salt out of it, maybe iodizing it, maybe not. Some of the natural salts do have more trace minerals in them. So yes, holding them under your tongue, you get the benefit of those trace minerals, which you may not get if you, I use Himalayan or Celtic salt on my food all the time. I think it's just better for you than plain table salt.
Yeah, well, we do too. Right now, I don't have a whole lot of, I've run out of questions. Does anybody else have a question for Alan on the skin?
So I'm just going to say this. I'll close with this because we're out of up. When you have dry skin, it's partly a hydration problem, but we need to look a little further and look at your liver function. Because if we're not getting enough of viscous material, which includes different kinds of fats that our body will make, cholesterol, which is used in our skin, we need to look at liver function. So when we look at little kids that have eczema and kids will grow up, they've got eczema and they've got psoriasis and these things. One of the things that's been overlooked in them for years and years is how well is their liver functioning? How well is their digestive functioning as a whole? And I've looked at, when I was doing pediatric pharmacy, we started looking at this and understanding that we needed to help these kids with their digestive enzymes, help them with their liver, and that would in turn, all of a sudden their eczema and their psoriasis and all those things would start disappearing. So there's a lot, like I said, your skin is the interaugmentary system. It's tied to your digestive, tied to your hormones, it's tied to everything. So when you have a skin problem, it usually is deeper than just the skin.
Well, thank you, Alan. I think that's been, well, I know I've learned a lot tonight. So thank you very much. And next time we'll have another topic to discuss. And thank you very much for your information.
You're welcome. Have a good night.